It was a real pleasure to sit with Robert Fly, CEO of detections.ai. Robert has a hugely impressive career to date, having built Salesforce into the golden beacon of SaaS security teams before scaling and exiting Elevate Security. He's now at the helm of detections.ai, building a game-changing tool for detection engineering teams. I'm Oliver Legg, co-founder of Aspiron Search. Enjoy the show. Well, it's a pleasure to welcome Robert Fly, the CEO of detections.ai. How's it going, Robert?
It's going great. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
What are we on? We're on day 2 of RSA 2026.
And how far back you go. And if you were here before RSA, it's day 3 or 4 for some folks.
Did you come in for B-sides?
Kind of popped in and out.
Yeah. It's it's good vibe. I've not been down to the conference floor yet, but it's going to be interesting trying to decipher multiple different products that all seem on surface value to be doing the same thing. So interesting to try and wade through it. Super stoked to have you on CyberBytes, because you have a really, really interesting story, not only as a security practitioner and leader, but as a successfully exited founder, and then onto your next venture with detections.ai. So tell us a bit about how you first got into security, first of all.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I love origin stories in security, especially for folks that could be called unks at this point. And the reason is because everybody came into this from a completely different avenue. There was no formal training for a lot of the folks that are my age that came into security. And so my story is going to be different than everybody else's, but probably similar in some ways. So I grew up on a small farm. My mom actually bought a computer way back when. Had I think it was a 9600 baud modem. And I was like, what do we do with this? And there was a few bulletin boards, if you remember BBSs, which most people won't. It's fine. This predates a lot of folks. But it was like a place where people could log in, they could hang out online. This is sort of pre a lot of the internet that we see today with browsers and whatnot. And you would go on and you would play games, mostly. And so my exposure to both the internet and security came through that. Because what do you do when you're 11 years old, 12 years old, and you don't have money? You find ways to play games that you want to play. And so we spent a bunch of time with hex editors trying to figure out license keys. How could we play these games without having to pay for them? But a lot of that, and that sort of got me curious about security. Fast forward a little bit, my mom would take me to the mall. I would beeline to Barnes & Noble's back when Barnes & Noble's was a big thing. And I would pick up Frack and 2600 and read through and just curious how the internet worked and how all these different systems worked. And that kind of got me started. And I went to university. I did not study computer science, did not study security, studied economics. And just sort of lucked into a job at Microsoft, pretty much right out of university. Also lucked into being on the right team, which was the Outlook team. At the time, Outlook was seeing Melissa, I Love You, the first email-borne viruses. And so got a chance to work on those and figure out how do we actually prevent different viruses from coming in through the Exchange and Outlook platforms. So that was my first foray into it professionally, but I've been doing it unprofessionally for
a lot longer.
For about 10 years prior to that,
Yeah, well, there's they're still one of the lighter kind of grey or black hat entrance stories, but I'm sure there's some stuff you're not saying as well.
This is the PG version.
Yeah,
it's being recorded, right?
When it's off camera. And then, so let's fast forward to Salesforce, because you were with Salesforce through, an incredible transition of period of growth for the business, but also their security org. And I remember you saying that you were responsible for really turning Salesforce into the shining beacon of SaaS business security models. And you were the second hire of the security team there. So just talk through that journey and some of the things that you saw during that time.
Yeah, so I was, prior to Salesforce, I'd spent about 9 years at Microsoft. And the last foray at Microsoft, I was building a security team in what became Office 365, but this was a precursor to Office 365. So some of our enterprise services, SaaS services that we had. So when I told people at Microsoft that I was going to Salesforce, everybody's like, who? This is 2007. No one knew, well, some people knew, salespeople knew who Salesforce was, but very few people did. And so when I interviewed there, it was clear they had a vision way bigger than just sales software. They wanted to build a platform. They wanted to build multiple business units. That was really, really intriguing to me because I did think that cloud and SaaS was going to be the future of how people consume software at the time. And so when I went over there, there was a couple security folks doing sort of a hodgepodge of different things, but no real security focus and no real security team. And it was interesting because literally week number one, and this is public information, but week number one, the company had a breach. So I went from coming in and building, having the edict to go build a team and build it all out to incident response mode. Do we have logs? I don't know. I don't even know where the bathrooms are, let alone where the log files are. So we very quickly had to pivot, and in the interim, trying to hire on a team to be able to handle this, but also build towards the future. And if you remember back then, so this was 2007, no one trusted the cloud at this point. I mean, literally every enterprise conversation was, there is no way we're putting data in the cloud. And so we had to earn that trust over time. So it was really, really important that we always did the right thing. We opted towards security. In fact, if you were to look at, I haven't been at Salesforce for a while, but I bet if you looked at their core values of the company, number one has always been trust. And it's been that way because they knew they needed to earn it to be able to sell software and continue to retain them. So, but it was a good run, yeah. So I mean, we went from that early incident that we had to deal with to Google was hit by the Aurora threats, if you recall that. So that sort of rebuilt our security team and focus to sort of building out multiple business units that we had to support over time. And the security team during my tenure there grew from a couple folks to, I think it was about 150 when I moved on. And world-class set of individuals there. Yeah.
What was it like culturally coming in and then like within days there being a breach? Because I imagine that was quite tricky in terms of, here's our new security guy, and then like, bam, we've just been breached. Like that must have been quite tricky to navigate.
So culturally, everybody in the company cared about trust.
Yeah.
So when I interviewed there, it was interesting because I got CISO offers from probably 6 different companies at the time. And I turned them all down, primarily because I didn't think the companies cared about security. Like they wanted to hire someone, they wanted to blame someone, they wanted someone to manage it, but they didn't care. Salesforce actually deeply cared about customer trust. And so when I came there, it was really, really clear from the beginning, from top down, from Mark Benioff and all of his executives, that they cared deeply about this. And so culturally, it was easy to get buy-in and it was easy to get resources to drive this. And then like any good incident, you use it to help build your case for, how do we build out the program going into the future?
Yeah.
So that was a good, I wouldn't say good boon, but it was a good boon for me to be able to have those resources like immediately available. And I can tell you there were many, many times I went into meetings with Mark Benioff where I would say, this is my plan and this is what I need. And he would come back and say, what if I gave you 2 times that amount of money or resources, or 3 times that amount of money and resources, which is to the average security person does not get that at all. So he is actually an incredible individual. He cares deeply about this and was awesome to build a security program for.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, there's probably so much more to talk about in the Salesforce run, but because your first venture was with Evolve Security, and what did I pronounce that right?
Elevate.
Elevate. Sorry, Elevate Security. And when did that itch start to arrive to found something and go out on your own and do your own venture? Was it over the course of years, or was there just like a eureka moment when you realized that you had a solution to a specific problem?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I'd spent 9 years at Microsoft. I'd spent almost 9 years at Salesforce. The last 2 years, I had probably about a dozen different chief security officer offers. And I didn't take any of them. The reason I didn't take any of them is because I kept thinking, what are we gonna do? Are we just gonna run through and be chief security officer 10 more times in my career before I go and retire? Like, what sort of legacy am I leaving that's actually gonna have a major impact? And so for me, it was all about what kind of impact can I have? And so prior to me leaving Salesforce, I'd gotten buy-in to start a research team at Salesforce that was all about how do we think about the future of security, sort of a startup within the company. And we have a small team, about 4 or 5 folks. We have some really incredible solutions there. And so that was sort of my precursor as I guess you would call it an entrepreneur, building interesting technology that actually had a big impact. And then saying, okay, my time at Salesforce is done. Like, what am I going to do next? So I took some time off. I took about a year off and had a few ideas that I was chasing down. The one I decided to pursue because I thought it would have the biggest impact in the industry was Elevate, which was all about human risk management. And how do we understand who's getting attacked? How do we understand behaviorally who is risky and who is not risky? And how do we put the right interventions in place to better protect those folks based on the context that we have about them? And that could be, I'm going to nudge you in the right direction, if you're making a wrong decision, to you consistently get attacked way more than anybody else and your behavior is bad. Let's put some constructive policies around you so that you're not sort of painting yourself into a corner.
Yeah. And I mean, it was a six-year build, wasn't it? And then a successful acquisition at the end. And I remember you saying that the timing could have been better you did a lot of the legwork to build the category, and now it's really starting to fly now.
Yeah.
So explain more about that and kind of what other, especially now you're on to detections.ai and you're at the helm of your the second startup. Like what are the other challenges and lessons that evolve? Elevate,
for Elevate, look, in a startup, there's things you can control and there's things you don't control. Timing is the one thing that you don't control.
Yeah.
And so it's either going to make or break. You could run the best startup, be the best operator, have the best technology, but if the timing isn't right, you're not going to win unless you last long enough to go win. And so for us, that was always tough because we were usually 2 years ahead of our competition. They would copy our messaging, which was fine. I mean, whatever. The product was 2 years behind. And we were just constantly playing an evangelism game to try to convince people that they needed this thing. And so it took Forrester and a few other folks to really prop up the category for it to be a thing. And at that point, we were sort of at a cusp of ChatGPT, I think it was 2.5, had just come out. Do we rebuild the company around AI? Or do we look for an acquisition? And so we had to weigh those two things. And we had a few offers from an acquisition standpoint. And we decided at that point it was better to go the acquisition route. And everybody made money and they were happy. And so we ended up there.
And then how long did you take off post-exit? Because it was a lot less than I think that you'd promised.
So I
promised your wife.
I told my wife I would take 12 months off. I mean, you could imagine running a company, even if you take time off, you don't really take time off. So we would be in Hawaii on a hike, and I'd be behind her 5 feet on my phone sending messages to my team, and we need to get this out, and what's going on here? And then she'd look back at me and be like, come on, dude.
Quickly hiding phone behind your back.
Yes. So I told her it'd take 12 months off. Fast forward to, I think, about a month in, I got a note from John Cowgill at Costanoa, and he said, hey, you should take a look at this company. They're looking for a CEO. I think it's really interesting. It's in the AI SOC space. And I go, John, there needs to be less AI stock companies in the world. Like, we don't need another AI stock company. He said, this one is different. You should take a look at it. I took a look at it. It was actually in the detection engineering space. I thought that was actually really interesting based on my experience at Salesforce, because we had done a lot of work in that area, and it was a lot of toil. It was really hard to get right. It was always questionable whether you did the right thing or not. And spoke to them, got really excited, talked to 30 potential prospects who'd be interested in it. Got a lot of thumbs up and sort of pivoted the direction just a little bit based on that feedback, and ended up joining them. So I think that was 2 months after. 2 months after.
How did that conversation go down?
My wife is really good about it. She's like, if you're passionate about it and you're willing to put in the time and the effort for it, then like, go do it.
Go do it. It's interesting because and I mean, I know multiple founders on like the staffing side, the industry that I'm in, who have exited, and then they just say they go insane because they go from being needed and being like important to then all of a sudden it's like, got the money in the bank, but like, where's the sense of purpose? So keep going. And so talk to me more about the detection engineering space and how detection AI actually fits into this. Like, what is the product actually doing?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit of a customer story and just sort of bleed into what the product does. So if you take a look at your average Fortune 500 detection engineering team today, they have anywhere from thousands to tens of thousands of custom detections that they've written. So anytime a new threat comes in, let's say it's Friday at 3 p.m., everybody's almost ready to go home. That's inevitably, by the way, when any CVE or new threat hits. It's like the end, right before the weekend.
Or right before 4th of July holiday or something.
Yes. That hits the CISO or the CEO, sees something at Wall Street Journal or CNN or whatever, comes back and says, hey, do we have coverage for this thing? What does it look like? Are we good? That effort of being able to get that answer takes a lot of time. And a lot of security teams, it can take anywhere from days to weeks. Because there's a lot that goes into it. There's all the sources and knowledge and context and the detections you have today. And do you have log sources for these things? Like, so much that goes into being able to answer the question of, do we have coverage for this? And so it takes a lot of time. On top of that, a lot of these companies have multiple SIMs, all the acquisitions, subsidiaries. It's really, really hard to get that answer. And so where detections AI fits in is all about, how do we reduce the toil? How do we get answers to mean time to coverage, and get that mean time to coverage down to seconds as opposed to days or weeks, and be able to support that. Now, the first product we launched is a community product, because what we heard when we talked to individuals in this space is they wanted a place where people could come together, share the detections they're working on, be able to consume the detections across different platforms, basically stand on the shoulder of giants. Because anytime that threat hits, every team goes off and does the exact same work. So can we come together and work together and save each other time and basically build better on top of each other?
Yeah, awesome. And you're utilizing AI yourself internally in some interesting ways, and I think it's it's one of the most topical things at the moment. And there were multiple conversations I had yesterday where we want all of our team, whether it's marketing, whether it's GTM, whether it's engineers, like, they need to be utilizing AI just as much as we want our customers to with our own product. But what's changed with how you and your team work at Detections AI versus Elevate versus Salesforce?
Yeah. So much. I mean, it's actually a really hard question to answer without giving so many different specifics. I would say day one when I came into the company, I said, this is a new era. We need to think differently. The way we build software, the way we sell software, the way we support customers has to change. And it may not immediately change today, but it's going to change over time, because these tools are just going to get better and better and better and better and better. So I'll give you an example just from today. I took Bart, the local train, into the city. And I had I think it was about a 30-minute walk to where we are. And I was like, well, I should write a specification. Like normally you would sit down and you type out a PRD doc and like problem and solution and outcomes and scope and all of that. But I built over the weekend, I built something that basically is an AI interviewer. The AI interview understands our persona, our product, our code base, what features we have, what features we don't have, who we're building for, what people like, what people don't like. And so it has all this context about what we have built. And so I just say, hey, I want to build a feature on X. And it goes, well, let me ask you some questions around that. And it's a conversation back and forth with the AI tool that I had built that helps get to the point after about 15, 20 minutes, depends on the complexity of the spec, where it's got a full product specification at that point. So I did that on the walk over here. The next step from there is it actually goes and creates a implementation spec. That implementation spec today gets reviewed by humans, and there's more that goes into it. It's not just like let it fly. And then from there, we have agentic tools using Cloud Code and other things that goes off and builds that product. Now, that's not even just where it ends, because we've hooked into tools like Post-Hog and Sentry and other tools to monitor both usage and errors and whatnot. That all gets fed back into our agentic coding tools to be able to fix things super, super quickly. So if we see someone hit an error, why make an engineer go off and do a whole bunch of review and figure it out and pull together a pull request and get it? You can automate that whole process. And so what we're trying to get to as much as possible is put humans in the loop where it matters, but in places where we can have agentic tools do a core part of the work, like let's have them do a core part of the work. And so a lot of what we're building in detections AI as well, if we take that from internal tools to the product we're building, we're sort of moving towards that direction as well. So helping the average detection engineer reduce a lot of the toil for things that, frankly, they don't love doing, takes them a lot of time. It's not super high value add, and it's really hard. So let's remove that part of the work and let them focus on the strategic parts.
Do you think engineers should be, like software engineers should be nervous of where the industry is going? Like, obviously they're always going to be needed, but are they needed in the same volume that they have been before? Like, and especially where we are, like Bay Area tech scene.
Yeah. So should they be nervous? I think they should be nervous if they're not adopting these tools. My son is he's getting a data science and computer science degree right now, so he's asking me the same questions.
Yeah.
Like,
am I taking the right route?
Yeah. Should I just drop it and do something else? And what I usually tell him is, look, at the end of the day, if you know how to use these tools to build things to solve people's problems, you're still going to be needed. But if you don't understand who you're solving the problem for, and you don't understand how to build good software or build good solutions for people, you have to have customer empathy. I think it's like number one, because if you don't as an engineer, like you're kind of not going to be in a good spot. You're replaceable because AI,
it is coming.
Not that it has empathy, but it understands the concept of empathy and what people are trying to accomplish. And it has a decent amount of, not fully, but has a decent amount of domain expertise, depending on what it's been trained on, to be able to replace some aspects of what people do today.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. But what's the future holding for you guys then? Because we're sat here in March 2026. You've closed the seed round with Coast Noah. What's next? What should people be looking out for and excited to see come from you guys?
Yeah, so we're working on, and hopefully within the next couple months, we'll release our enterprise product. That's going to be all about how do we understand if people have coverage for a given threat, being able to fill those coverage gaps super, super quickly. And then the next part of it is the detection lifecycle management. So it's where a lot of the toil is spent today I wrote these detections a year ago, 2 years ago. How do I know if they're accurate? How do I know if they still work? How do I keep them up to date? Oh, the technology on my backend changed. My log sources changed. I need to update my detections. It's a lot of toil work that's just it's not all that fun either to do. So can we automate a lot of those pieces for enterprises who have incredibly complex environments? And it's just really, really tough for any given team to be able to stay on top of.
Yeah. Well, it's an exciting space, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do. So thanks for coming on, and it's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Same.